8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Party starter, are you ready to go? I'm the party starter, party starter, party starter, party starter, I'm the party starter. Everybody, let's go. I'm the party starter. Everybody, let's go.
Of one and all, and welcome to yet another round of the hydraulic sponsored SRA, and today we're going to be doing the Polo Cup, and it's practice. On the Polo Cup. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well, welcome everybody to round one of the National Polo Cup from Kyalami International Raceway. My name is Frankie Yennis, Mike's side, and joining me for this very exciting race for round number one is Francois Butler.
Frankie, yo, welcome to Sim Race Africa. And like you say, round one of the Polo Cup South Africa held at Kyalami. A very sunny track, weather conditions look very good, very favorable for racing. Altogether, a good couple of contenders out there from South Africa and Namibia. So we're looking forward to very exciting racing.
Big thanks to Volvo Cars Namibia. They're part of the British Touring Car Championship, and JP Hydraulics from Walvis Bay. That is Alan Martin from JP Hydraulics, the sponsor of this event. And we are going to go very shortly into the 5-minute quali sessions. There was 15 cars that had entered for this event. At one stage of the game, I saw all 15 cars in the pit lane, and hopefully we'll get all 15 of them out there for the qualifying session, which will start shortly.
Yeah, Frankie, a lot of seasoned veterans out there, both of normal tar racing and sim racing, and names that have proven themselves out on those various circuits around the country and abroad, to say the least. So I'm reckoning that we're in for very exciting racing tonight.
You've got Lyle Ramsey, who is family of the late Gavin Ramsey. You got John Henry Vaughan, who is a oval track racing driver that's now moving over to the main circuit. Peter Grobler out there, all from South Africa. Christopher Long, who has done stints in Clubmans and is one of South Africa's top drifting champions. We've got Adra Nel, Melvin Gous, they come from Namibia. Waldo Swiggers from South Africa. Stewie Mack is in there as well, and a whole heap of drivers. Umpi Swart is in Clinton beside the Ras Polo Cup driving as well, and geez, there's so many of them. Gavin Fleming, Mike McGeer, and a whole lot more as we are now about to get underway with the qualifying sessions.
Well, all the cars are out in the circuit. We'll try and pick them up as they go out there, and we'll let you know what's happening out there and see what kind of times they post. They're looking around about the 2 minute 3 second mark. We'll have to wait and see how that goes.
Yes, in the practice early on, they were doing 203s, and I think the slowest was around about 205s. So there's approximately 3 seconds between P1 and P15 at that point in time. But of course, that was all practice sessions. We are now going to gear up for the official qualifying, which of course is 5 minutes long.
Out there, the 69 car, I think it could be Mike Greer. Christopher Long is out there in the Mike's Place Polo GTI. Keep an eye on him. Lyle Ramsey's in there too. Adrianel, Melvin Goos, Warren Sheehan. These are guys that are very well equipped drivers and know exactly what's expected of them. They will all be vying for top conditions and top positions in the race. And let's have a look, see as they go up onto Leeuwkop, already starting to make use of most of the circuit.
Yeah, all the famous names. That is a Leeuwkop that they're coming out now, the double left-hander. Then they will squirt it down the mine shaft into that left-hander, and then from there they'll go into the right-hander. That is a crocodile. They will work their way out of a crocodile. They're busy working their way out of crocodile now, heading towards a cheetah, and then from cheetah they will work their way into the final corner. That is Ingwe, and then from Ingwe they'll go back onto the main straight. That is now Ingwe that they are moving to, and then through Ingwe onto the main straight, the kink, and then of course to that very famous Crowthorne corner, which takes you to Yuxkay, to Barbecue, to Sunset, to Clubhouse, through the S's and back up to Leeuwkop once again.
Yeah, no, we're on board here with Mike McGreer, and he's obviously giving it his all. Right up there behind him, Christopher Long with Lyle Ramsey sitting up there behind him. Oh, hard, stomping hard on the brakes there is Christopher Long. See smoke coming off the passenger rear as it gets hard onto the gas there now. Now they work their way up towards the top end of the circuit, and we see a couple of air balloons out there, so people getting the race from a different vantage point.
Yeah, the guys have put up times. Remember, it's only the outlap that they've done so far, so that 2-minute 10.9 means absolutely nothing. They will be dropping down to about 2-minute 4, 2-minute 5, and even the top runners 2 minutes and 3 seconds around, as they are now out on their second lap. But they're going to have to get a move on, Francois. Only got 1 minute and 40 seconds left for qualifying. So at the end of this lap, you'll see the times go from 2-minute 10 to about 2-minute 3, 2-minute 4 seconds.
Yeah, no, and I'm looking down the bottom end of that drivers list. Peter Grobler, Gerard Niemand, Yassine Manuel, and Jay de Villiers all not out there to post the qualifying, which means they could possibly start from the back end of the field. Quickest man out there at the moment is Mike McGeer, and he's posting a 2-minute 10. Like we said, it could be different in race conditions. The track might be a bit dirty, tires a little bit cold as they work their way around. And keeping an eye there now as sees Lyle Ramsey got past Christopher Long. Adrian Nels in there with Melvin Goos up behind him. Warren Sheehan a little way back with Dewald Kotze and Gavin Fleming up there behind him. But they seem to be a little bit off the pace at the moment.
But like I said earlier on, that 2-minute 10 doesn't mean a damn thing. We'll see when they start crossing the start line now with 50 seconds left on the clock. You'll see how those times drop down dramatically. There we go, 2 minutes and 3 for Lyle Ramsey, 2 minutes 3.4 for Adrianel, and look at those times have gone down. Warren Sheehan at 2:19, he won't be on a 2:19 for long, that's for sure, as the field crosses the line with only 25 seconds left in qualifying. So from 2-minute 10 they've gone down to 2:03, 2:09 as we would have expected. And the top 5 at this point in time is doing 2:03, make it the top 7. John Henry Vaughan's also done a 2:03.9. Gavin Fleming was on a 2:05 in practice. He's also done a 2:04.032. So he's gone up by more than a second as Gavin Fleming from official practice to official qualifying.
Well, short margins there. We saw Christopher Long up early on in practice, sitting up at about 2nd place. Now he's been squirmed down to 10th place. But the margin from 1 down to 10 is probably about a second and a bit there, Frankie. So I think this is going to be very close.
Yeah, it's 2:03.2 plays 2:04.5. So yeah, it's just over a second in that top 10 between Lyle Ramsey and Chris Long. Stewie Mack did a 2:06 dead. Warren Sheehan is still in the 219, so if he's still out there, he should do a heck of a lot better than that. And Grobler will obviously better his 223.808. That, of course, if he's still out on track. But right now, we are in overtime for the qualifying sessions, as the checkered flags have already now begun to come out. Mike McGear has taken the flag. He's done a 203.777. He can't do no better than that. And Devil Kutsa 204.217, as the rest of the cars will now head towards the checkered flag for the end of the qualifying session.
Now we see the National Polo Cup driver there, Lyle Ramsey, with the Fuchs Silklin sponsor on his livery there. So he'll be quick to pick up there. Up behind him, Mike's Place Clubman's man Mike's Place engine place, sorry, is Christopher Long. So he'll be out there. Melvin Goos from Namibia sits there in third place on the grid with Christopher Long up behind him. Walter Swiggers did well at a 203.5. And up behind him, Clinton Besaidno, the season campaigner there on a 203.6. So it's comic 001 of a second. So he's very, very tight.
Yeah, so it's more than just those two. The other cars are busy coming through now to get the checkered flag as the qualifying session is done. Adrian Nel 203.126 and Lyle Ramsey 203.209. There is nothing separating those top 11 cars. They're all in the 203. From 203.1 to 203.9 is about 0.8 of a second.
Yeah, so now we have a look at the qualifying and pole position. Adrian Nel at 203.1. Lyle Ramsey sits there alongside him. Second row, Melvin Goos and Christopher Long. Third row, Walter Swiggers, Clinton Besaidno. Fourth row, John Henry Vaughan, Mike McGear. Fifth row, Peter Grobler and Gavin Fleming.
Yeah, a big thanks to Volvo Cars Namibia and JP Hydraulics. That is Alan Martin. JP Hydraulics, the sponsor of this event. Round one of the National Polo Cup Championships, brought to you by JP Hydraulics and coming to you from Kyalami International Grand Prix Circuit.
Also, big thanks to Johanna van der Westhuizen from Quick Fix, now moved through to Brackenfell, and then also Maps Racing, John Vaughan, and then also to Yuri Swart Sr. from Alpine Auto. Less than a minute to go before we start with heat number one. They'll be starting according to the order that they have qualified, and then keep in mind that for round number two, it will be the top 8 that's going to be inverted. So the top 8 is what it's all about for this, the very first round here from Killarney with the new Polo Cup Series.
Right, from Kyalami International Grand Prix Circuit, Gavin Fleming did a 2:05 in official practice. He's done a 2 minute and 3. He's gone about 2 seconds quicker than what he did early on in the official practice session. Man, this is going to be pretty tight. There was about 11 of them, Francois, that was on the 2:03, and there was about 0.8 of a second between them. Right, here we go. This will be 15 minutes plus 1 lap, with McGear and Nell locking out the front row of the grid.
Well, we're looking then at approximately 8 laps of Kyalami that they'll do, given the times they are doing, if my maths serves me well. 25 seconds before they start. Oh, they're getting a bit hot under the lids there at the moment. They must be rubbing their fingers in the gloves, trying to get that perfect grip. The should we say the nervous energy is now sitting in that left foot on the clutch now as they have to lift off. So I reckon this is going to be pretty nail-biting stuff. We're waiting for the lights. The lights are coming on. They're going to go. Frankie, taking them off the line.
Right, all the lights are on now, all 6 lights. There's a slight pause, the lights go off. And, well, they should have been going right now. I think they're going to wait for the pace car to come through. Yeah, they got the pace car. That's the Alfa Romeo pace car that's coming through. The pace car will lead them off the line. Warwick Stewart will be there driving that pace car, I think. As, well, that caught us slightly unaware that the pace car will be making its way around the track to take them around. So they're going to be there behind the pace car, and then they will be making their way around the circuit. The pace car will peel into the pit lane. When they come out of Inkware, just before Inkware, the pace car will pull into the pit lane, working its way out of a Cheetah, and then it will be in the hands of all of these Polo Cup drivers. Right, they just made their way now out of barbecue by the looks of things. Behind the pace car. Yeah, they're heading now towards Sunset Corner. They turn right into Sunset. And then they will be going down, Francois, to that famous left-hander. That is Clubhouse. They're still busy working their way through Sunset. Now they'll turn left into Clubhouse, make their way to the S's, and then climb the hill to the top of Leeuwkop.
Oh, the famed Leeuwkop. I mean, we go back in years now. This part of the circuit is where a lot of action takes place, because you'll have people coming inside trying to squirm someone towards the outside, trying to get across the corner to the outside of the apex, trying to get advantage. You go through those S's, up the hill, up onto the tabletop at Leeuwkop, and that lovely 180. And sometimes also there's a little bit of squirming, under braking and stuff taking place. So I think this is where all the excitement's going to be.
Right, they've now climbed on top of the hill. They're now on top of the shelf. That is Leeuwkop. They will turn left. That's the JP Hydraulics car of Melvin Goos. We were on board there very briefly. Of course, JP Hydraulics, the main sponsor, through the double left-hander. Now down this very quick mine shaft into a very, very fast left-hander, as these Polo Cup drivers are following the pace car around. That is pretty quick at high speed. They're going through that part of the wall pretty slow right now, as we are on board the Gavin Fleming car. And he's one of those top 11 drivers that did a 2 minute and 3 seconds. Now they're making their way through Crocodile and heading towards Cheetah. There they go now through Crocodile. There's Inkwe. The pace car has pulled off. Now it's under the hands and under control of these Polo Cup drivers. The pace car stopped in pit lane. The clock is ticking, and we're going to go racing at Kyalami International Grand Prix Circuit shortly for round 1 of the JP Hydraulics National Polo Cup Championships. They drop the hammers. Now it's all focused through the kink. They race now into the left-hander. That is turn 1. That is Crowthorne Corner. Down into Crowthorne Corner. They're 2, 3, 4 abreast now. Clinton Beside wants to come through. He knows that part of the track very well. Look at Chris Long shoving his nose in there. And the JP Hydraulics car coming through as well of Melvin Goos.
Well, keep an eye on the Fuchs car there of Lyle Ramsey as he leads out now into that tight left-hander. Christopher Long is up there now, and I tell you what, he's going to be fighting there with Adrian Nel, Melvin Goos and Mike Begrier right up there behind them. I tell you what, absolutely mind-blowing stuff now as they work their way through Sunset.
Right, they're now working their way through Sunset. They just went through Barbecue. Now they're going to this long right-hander. That is Sunset Corner, making their way now to Clubhouse. Mike Begeer sits there in that 69 car. He's right there with the Voldo Swicher. Swicher has got his nose ahead of him as they now start working their way slightly up the hill into the S's, and then they'll storm up to the top of Leeuwkop.
Well, absolutely nail-biting single file stuff now as they work their way up the hill. A slight move towards the right there now. You'll stomp on the brakes, you get up there. Gear down 2 gears, and keep an eye there on Goos, looking up at the inside of Long. It's a big ask there now as they work their way around. Looks like there might have been a bit of coming togethers there now, but no, everyone keeps himself nice and tight. He's still Lyle Ramsey leading out now as he makes his way down the mine shaft down towards Crocodiles.
They're all working their way now down that mine shaft. They'll swing it left. That is pretty quick through that left-hander. Now they dive into the right-hander. The next corner will be another right-hander. That will be Crocodile. Through Crocodile, this whole group of Polo Cup drivers go. Ramsey just turned it into a Crocodile corner now, and through Cheetah he goes, and through Ingwe for a lap done as they squirted across the start-finish line to start another lap.
Oh, Lyle Ramsey is still leading out there. Right up behind him, Adrian Nel. Melvin Goos, the man from Namibia, sits up there behind him with Christopher Long down in 4. Peter Grobler up in 5 now. Keep an eye on this man. He's pretty nifty around the circuit, and a lot of eyes will be on him now as they work their way now into that lovely tight left-hander.
Right, you're on board with Lyle Ramsey. Look at Adrian Nel sitting in 2nd. It is a Goos that sits out in 3rd. There's a massive dice there between 1st, 2nd, and 3rd as Nel has a look. Nel has taken that position away from Lyle Ramsey. Ramsey drops down now into 2nd place with Nell that led, but this is chopping and changing because back into the lead again goes Lyle Ramsey, and he is side by side there with Adrian Nell, and looks like Nell has taken the lead away. Gous sits there in that second place. No, it's still Ramsey from Nell, from Gous, heading now towards Clubhouse.
Well, Gous loud on the loud pedal a bit late in the brakes, runs his wide there towards on the right hand and manages to regain control back there now. Now we sit there with Adrian Nell right up behind Lyle Ramsey now. Through they go through the S's now, work their way up the hill, and this is really tight stuff. You've got to use all the circuit you can. As you can see, Lyle Ramsey now working his way up there now, takes the center of the road, goes out, and he'll stomp on the brakes there now, grab some gears down, up on the tabletop there, and hang a tight left-hander.
Yeah, and I just had a look at Melvin Gous. He looked up there on the outside, then dived to the inside there of Gous, and Gous was caught napping there as, should I say, Nell was caught napping there as Gous has now moved up into that second position. So we've got Ramsey from South Africa sitting out there in P. Well, we've got Gous from Namibia in that second position. We've got Nell from Namibia also in P3. And then the SA driver, Chris Long, rounds off the top four as Nell sits there right on the tailgate of Gous as they go into the right-hander. That is Cheetah making their way towards Ingwe, the final corner.
Well, Adrian Nell's got a little bit of a breathing space there ahead of Christopher Long. Christopher Long has got a gaggle of cars up behind him then, the likes of Peter Grobler and Waldo Swiggers. And that front six sort of separate themselves from the rest of the field, but don't take anything away from them. They can get close pretty shortly. Here's Christopher Long with Peter Grobler ahead there of Waldo Swiggers. Swiggers getting on the gas, getting a bit of a draft there now, going down towards that tight left-hander. Can he brake late? He gets late on the brakes. He looks up on the inside and he makes it stick. Lovely stuff as they work their way through there now.
Out of a Crowthorne corner, it was Swiggers that got his nose ahead there of Grobler. Grobler dropping down one position. He sits there right on that bumper of Waldo Swiggers as he works his way out of Yukskei corner. Out of Yukskei now, they squirted towards Sunset. Grobler sits on the outside of Swiggers. The two of them are side by side. But Sunset is a long right-hander that takes him into barbecue. Will he drive around him on the outside as they head through Sunset towards Clubhouse? Will Swiggers give way, dives to the inside, but it is Grobler that leads Swiggers out of Clubhouse.
Well, I said Grobler is a season campaigner, and there he just took the metal out of the jacket and showed that he can do it now. Now they work their ways now through and back up the hill they go again, right once again up towards the tabletop. And hard driving there now. Keep an eye on Peter Grobler there. He's got Waldo Swiggers up behind him. Now will Swiggers be late on the brakes? Oh, and look at Grobler going defensive there, trying to keep the line closed. He takes the tight line and tends to shut out Swiggers there. A very, very clever maneuver. You can see this man knows what he's doing. But have a look up front of that front four. Still Lyle Ramsey leading out from the man from Namibia, Melvin Gous. Adrian Nell's in there with a steep shout. And right up behind him is that drifting champion, Mr. Christopher Long.
Yeah, Chris Long in this party as well as Ramsey is being attacked there by Gous. Lyle Ramsey and Melvin Gous right there on his back bumper as they work their way into the right-hander. That is Cheetah. From Cheetah now, they make their way into Ingwe, and sitting there in third is now Long sits in P4. He's got the best seat in the house. There's a little bit of a gap between Long and Grobler that rounds off the top five, and still Swiggers is right there, not too far behind Grobler. And let's see if he can catch up onto the back bumper of Peter Grobler once again.
Well, behind Waldo Swiggers there, Clinton Besona, John Henry Vaughan, Warren Shan, Dewald Kortzer, Mike McGeer, who's gone a little way back. Gerard Niemand in there too with Stuart Mack, Jay de Villiers, Gavin Fleming and Yassine Manuel, all still taking part pretty much. But the field now starting to spread out ever so slightly in 4.2 laps. We're about, got about 7, so say about 5 minutes left in this. We'll have to see how this one works out.
Yeah, 6 minutes and 50 to be here precisely as this group now makes its way towards the right-hander. That is Sunset Corner. We're sitting on board third place man Adrian Nell. He's got a bird's eye view of Gous and Ramsey ahead of him as he works his way out of a Sunset Corner into the left-hander. That is Clubhouse. He's keeping a beady eye. There's not much between the three of them. Behind them it's Long, Grobler and Swiggers. They round off the top six. We're sitting there now with Adrian Nell through the S's, Francois, as they run it up to Leeuwkop, and one gets a feeling down the mine shaft towards Crocodile. There might come a move from one of these three.
Well, Gous looking to do the switch back there on Lyle Ramsey. Ramsey goes defensive there, holds the inside line. Adrian Nell clawing to the curb there, trying to come up on the inside of That man Melvin Goos, when he looks like he's alongside, but Goos gets on the loud pedal and pulls ahead of him. Now they're going to be drafting each other on their way down to that left-hander towards Crocodiles. They'll hit that right-hander now, and I tell you what, this is absolutely scary stuff now as they get on the brakes and shift through the gears.
Oh, look at this start happening. All of a sudden, Christopher Long is there. Christopher Long is there with the Grobler. He's giving him hell there as he sits right there behind Grobler. If anything, Swiggers is going backwards, and he was in P5 behind Grobler. He sits there in that 6th position as Chris Long has a look there at Grobler. Long and Grobler, they side by side across the finish line now. Remember that Crowthorne is a left-hander, and Long might just dive through there in that left-hander and get his nose ahead of Grobler.
Well, Long has got the inside line. He's late on the brakes, and he tends to... You see, now there's a lot happening here, Frankie, at this specific corner, that the guys are getting on the brakes late and getting out the exit after the main straight. But have a look at Grobler. He's not going to hang back. He's giving a bit of rubbing his racing, and Chris Long is going to say, I paid a lot for the paint. But he stays ahead as he gets ahead there now. Ahead of them, Adrianel trying to fight with the top 2.
Yeah, being muscled slightly off the track there was Christopher Long. But there is nothing in it amongst this top 6-7 drivers as they... Whoa! And was that Ramsey that got himself on 2 wheels? And Nell has now got his nose ahead of Ramsey as they work their way out of Clubhouse Corner.
Well, keep an eye on Melvin Goos. He was sitting in at one stage in P4, got P3, then 2. Now he sits in P1. Now make his way up towards Sunset, now work his way around there now and make his way up the hill. And this is brilliant stuff. They're on 2 wheels going around the corners. These are 110% efforts been lodged by all these drivers now. And now look how close the front 6 are getting, Frankie, as they go up onto the tabletop.
But the boys from Namibia sit P1 and P2. Melvin Goos and Adrianel. Ramsey sits out there in that 3rd place. Through Leeuwkop they go now. Now they will just fly down the mine shaft as we look at Ramsey from the Grobler car as they race down into Crocodile. Through Crocodile they go now. There is absolutely now. There's about there's about 6/10 of a second between P1 and 2, 6 between 2 and 3, 3 between 4 and 3. There is really nothing between these top 4-5 drivers as they make their way now through Ingwe.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of setting track limits right now. They're just using every bit of space that they've got available to them now. And Christopher Long, I don't know, he seems to be lacking ever so slightly now. He's lost touch there with Peter Grobler, and Waldo Swiggers is coming into his clutches. So Christopher Long is going to have to be very protective.
But Ramsey and Grobler, they were virtually side by side going into the kink, and that might have changed. It's still Ramsey that's ahead there of Grobler as he was worked off the track. Look at Swiggers. Swiggers sits there behind Christopher Long, and Waldo Swiggers is coming into play again.
Waldo Swiggers up there. Clinton Besaidon not too far behind Waldo Swiggers with Johnny Rivon down in 8th place. So the top 8 all in with pretty much with a shout there. Not too much in difference in time. Probably about a second and a half between the lot of them. So it's not too much as they work their way now through the circuit. And still that man, Melvin Goos from JP Hydraulics with the number 1 in his car. He sits out there in front. Right up behind him, his compatriot Adrianel trying to claw back in there now. Lyle Ramsey, the man from Joburg, sits right up there in P3. Peter Grobler up behind him. And Christopher Long and Waldo Swiggers are at it, absolute hammer and tongs.
Oh, then it's Johnny Vaughan, Clinton Besaidon, Warren Sheehan, and Dewald Kotze. That is the top 10 as Swiggers is having a look now on the outside of Chris Long. On the top of the shelf, that is Leeuwkop. Through the double left-hander now, and Waldo Swiggers is having a go there. Chris Long down the mine shaft. Long is going to have to try and drive around him on the long side. He doesn't have the line going into that left-hander, but if he can stay there, he will have the line now for the right hand, and there's contact, and Swiggers gets sent packing into the wall at the bottom of the mine shaft.
Swiggers going to have to recover now. It's going to be a bit of a setback for him now. He was doing very well. He's now relegated down to about 12th position, so there's a lot for him to do. He was on the outside. I think that Christopher Long looked like he had the line going into that right-hander at Crocodiles. So a bit unfortunate for Swiggers wanting to come back there and having himself forced off the circuit.
Right, you've got a minute and 10 seconds to go. We're on board with 4th place man Peter Grobler. through the kink. Ahead of him is Lyle Ramsey. Ahead of Ramsey is Adranel. And your leader Melvin Ghost now, as Grobler has a look up on the inside of Ramsey, working out of Crowthorne corner. Through Crowthorne, they make their way through Yixkay. From Yixkay, they go into Barbecue. And from Barbecue, they will now make their way through that left-hander into the right-hander. That is a Sunset corner.
Oh, they're making their way onto Sunset corner now. I have this on frontal view there now of Melvin Ghost. Adranel's right there. Now have a look at Adranel as he fights with that steering wheel, trying to stay in touch there with Melvin Ghost now. Now they work their way up towards that left-hander now. Late on the brakes, they stomp at the last marker now. Work your way around the corner. These polos have got fantastic handling now. And Melvin Ghost now pushing pretty hard. Is going to get up there onto the tabletop now. Late on the brake, swings around through the kink. And then makes the right-hander up the hill. And they are tending to pull away a little bit there from Lyle Ramsey and Peter Grobler.
Right, that is the top four we're looking at now. That's heading on to the top of the shelf into Leeuwkop. Ghost, Nel, Ramsey and Grobler. And he has a look up on the inside of Lyle Ramsey. But Ramsey keeps the line covered. Now it is down the mine shaft. They go now towards the left and right-hander that goes into Crocodiles. There's not much between these four. The producer has to stay with these four now because the winner will come from these four. As Grobler looks up on the inside and takes that place away from Ramsey, but Ramsey fights right back.
Well, having a look at that, we just go a little way back now. We see that things are changing. John Henry Vaughan has come from 8th up to 5th place. So Vaughan has jumped up a little bit there now. But still out front is Melvin Ghost, and Melvin Ghost is having someone knock there on his back door saying to him, "Hello, my compatriot, I'm here, and we are racing hard."
And racing as hard as they possibly can as they squirted down now into Crowthorne corner. This is the last lap as they head down into Crowthorne. Will now have a go at Ghost. The boys from Namibia are showing the local SA drivers, Francois, the way around Kyalami Grand Prix circuit.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's too close for comfort at the moment for Melvin Ghost because his compatriot Adranel is right there with him. Lyle Ramsey is trying everything to keep Peter Grobler at bay. Grobler in that Sasol Polo sits right up there behind that Fuchs Silklin car, and I tell you what, it is absolutely nail-biting stuff. Last lap, anything can happen. You know what this game is like.
And Nel says to Ghost, come on, let's go. We've got to make this a 1-2 for Team Namibia as they work their way out. Now into the left-hander, that is Clubhouse corner. Through Clubhouse, the two Namibian drivers go. Start to climb the hill ever so slightly. Then into the left-right S's and then dart up the hill towards Leeuwkop.
Ah, there they go. And Peter Grobler seems to be breaking the camel's back a little bit there on Lyle Ramsey. Ramsey might have grip problems. A man that's surprising is John Henry Vaughan sitting there in P5 ahead of Christopher Long. Mike McGee has done wonderful stuff up in 7th place. And the man that's gone a little bit backwards is Waldo Swiggers.
Swiggers has gone all the way from about P5, 6 at one point in time down to P8. Long has gone down one position to Vaughan. That sits there in that 4th place, and McGee, he is in P7. That's the man that qualified in pole position.
Yeah, McGee, unfortunate. Like you say, it is on the final lap. And we're coming up towards the checkered flag there. Your man Melvin Ghost still leading out from Adranel, Lyle Ramsey and John Henry Vaughan.
Right through Cheetah they go now towards Ingwe, the final corner. And it is the drivers, the boys from Namibia, that bring it home in P1 and P2. Melvin Ghost and Adranel will finish 1st and 2nd across the line. Grobler will get to the flag just ahead there of Lyle Ramsey as the rest of the field comes through. Here comes John Henry Vaughan in that blue car. And here Christopher Long also finishes. And then McGee making his way through in that purple-coloured machine.
Behind him, Waldo Swiggers, Gerard Niemand. And the checkered flag out there, followed by Warren Sheehan. Clinton beside note, we expected a bit more of him, followed there by Stuart Mack.
Right, that was heat number 1. The cars crossing the line. Gavin Fleming will also make his way across the line. First time we see Gavin out there. He qualified in 11th and ended 15th. Not too bad for a young man that's only driven Kyalami once before, and this is the one time that he's done it before. Hasn't driven the circuit before.
I, in fact, went on 20 minutes before the time and tried to get to know the nuances of the new Polo. But yeah, the rest of the guys have done a lot more practicing in that. You don't just climb on and do it. A big thanks to John Vaughan from Maps Racing, and then also to Jonne van der Westhuizen from Quick Fix, and then also Mr. Swart Senior from Alpine Auto coming on board to help with the commentary. And then also a big thank you to Carl Wiltshire that spent the whole day here with us to try and get things sorted out, with the backup then of Dean Holloway as well. All these guys coming together to try and make it all happen. So that was race number 1. Now keep in mind, we will be inverting the front 8. So that means Melvin Gous will drop down alongside Gerard Niemand. So Waldo Swiggers and Mike McGeer. Mike was pretty quiet, but he was there and thereabouts. Will come at the front row of the grid. Christopher Long and the 14-year-old John Henry Vaughan from Maps Racing will be on the second row of the grid. Lyle Ramsey, national rider, and Peter Grobler will be on the third row. Adrian Nel and Melvin Gous then find themselves coming off the fourth row of the grid. Then behind it will be Gerard Niemand and Warren Sheehan, Quinton Bezuidenhout, and then Stuart Mack comes in there as well. So it'll be pretty interesting stuff. There's pretty much a minute between the two races. Just give the guys behind the scenes an opportunity to turn it all around, invert that front 8, and then we will go back to racing again. A big thanks to JP Hydraulics, to Alan Martin, that's been on board right from the beginning to try and help us to get all this racing together, and very much appreciated all the assistance that he's done. So Frankie, that was round 1 for the Polo Cup Series. They get all the cars back into the pits, and round 2 about to start. Very long awaited to get this Polo Series going, but I tell you what, it's a very difficult car to drive. As you can see, a lot of smoke coming off the front tires. They've only put a 20% diff lock on the diff ratio on these cars, and that means that you've got to feather the accelerator all the time. So when you see those close in-car shots and you see smoke around the front wheels, that's where the guys are too hard on the gas, and it's actually spinning the wheels. Now, from having driven the track myself, I can tell you, you're looking at around about 0.8 of a second if you're spinning up the wheels all the time on any given lap, and that is a big difference if you lose out on that time. So definitely throttle response is what it's all about with these Polos.
Right, we are about to get race number 2 underway, and as Gary was saying early on, we have been waiting in anticipation for the Polo Cup Championship to start, the National Polo Cup Championship. The bottom line is the boys from South Africa, well, they thought that they were going to beat the drivers from Namibia, but well done to and Nel. They came to Kyalami International Grand Prix Circuit, and they showed the local IESA boys around the track. But with that top 8 inverted, man, it's going to be a heck of a dice out there for 15 minutes plus 1 lap. Keeping in mind that the pace car will take them off the line, so when we see the counter go to 0, they will not go. We'll wait for the pace car to come through and take them around, and then we will get this one underway. As you see, the cars are beginning to line up on the good already. Mike McGeer, well, he's back on the front row of the grid again, Francois.
I think that's a political ploy, to say the least. He had pole, so maybe he sandbagged a bit to get in. I say knew he'd get back on pole.
This
you know,
this time he's going to go for it.
He's going to go for it. And once again, Christopher Long sitting on the second row, John Henry Vaughan. I don't know how this works. I think this is a game of strategy. I think they're going to let it all hang out in heat number 2, to be frank. No, or you're going to be frank. No, you can be frank. You'll be frank. Okay.
You be Francois.
Okay, thanks. Right, 20 odd seconds to go. And like Frank lightly said, once we get to 0, the pace car, that beautiful Alpha Giulietta, will roll down the middle and get them on their warm-up lap, their sighting lap. And once they come around that inner corner into the main straight, it's bang, let it all hang out.
Looks like Warwick Stewart will be the man that will be driving that pace car. So here he comes, Warwick Stewart with that Alpha Giulietta. He is the man that's making his way down the center of the grid. He says, come on guys, follow me around Kyalami International Grand Prix Circuit, and let's get heat number 2 underway.
Right, so they're off the line. They make their way down to the first right-hander. and get all those things underway. So it's going to be, I reckon, a real stonking race, to say the least, Frank.
That's going to be hectic out there. Remember that Nel and Gous are going to have to come from that fourth row of the grid. And Swiggers and Mageer will be the two drivers that will start on the front row. Warwick Stewart, you see out there, he's not P1, he's actually just the pace car driver.
I think a driver that we've got to keep an eye on. I think it's going to grab this with both hands, and I don't want to put money on it, but just say that it's Waldo Swiggers sitting there in second place on the front row. Because Waldo had a very, very good first heat, to say the least. Although down in 8th, he did fantastically well.
Yeah, and I think we have to keep an eye on Mageer as well. I just got a funny feeling that Mike Mageer is going to show them. That's that maroon purplish car that you see there behind the 11 of Waldo Swiggers as they make their way through Sunset Corner behind Warwick Stewart, who is the pace car driver, and making their way now towards a left-hander that is Clubhouse.
Yeah, and keep an eye on Christopher Long. I think he wore his tyres out a little bit in the first heat, allowing John Henry Vaughan to surpass him. Now Henry Vaughan sits right up there behind him now as they make their way around the circuit. And once they get over the line there to that S's and up the hill, and then up behind them, Adrian Nel and Melvin Gous. Ooh, it's a lot of work to get to the front of that pack, I'm afraid.
But I think we have to watch out for Ramsey, Grobler, Nel, Gous, 6, 7, 8. And 9 as you see them there, although that's not correct because the car that you see in P1 is actually our pace car driver. So, but that is the combination I think that we're going to have to keep an eye out on, and that will be Ramsey, Grobler, Nel, and Gous. And Clinton Besaidnout also comes from the Gauteng side of the world, so he will know Kyalami Grand Prix circuit pretty well. As we hop aboard the Mike's Place Polo there of Chris Long. Now they're bunching it up. It looks like they're making their way through Crocodile now, yes? And they're heading towards Cheetah.
Frankie, just something that we'd let the viewers note, that they're riding the European Polos. You'll note they're left-hand drive. They're not right-hand drive as we do find on the normal tar circuit. These are the European Polos, the VW Polos. They're all left-hand drive. And I must admit that the drivers are acquitting themselves very well in left-hand drive format.
Right, the pace car disappears down the road. You see him working his way towards the pits. That is Warwick Stewart. And now it's in the hands of Swiggers and Mageer. They are the two drivers that are on the front row of the grid, as Warwick Stewart has now pulled the Alpha into the pits. We wait for them now. Swiggers and Mageer with Long and John Henry Vaughan. That's the first two rows of the grid. We're about to go green at Kyalami International Grand Prix Circuit for the National Polo Cup Heat number 2, brought to you by JP Hydraulics.
And a man that gets off the line there is Waldo Swiggers. Not too quick of the line there was Mike Mageer, slips down into 5th position. And it looks like Christopher Long sits there in 2nd place, followed there by Ryle Ramsey and John Henry Vaughan in there. Mike Mageer trying to come around. Oh, and it's bumping Argy Bargy, rubbing his racing, mix some paint. I tell you what, that turn is psychedelic at the moment now as they work their way through the right-hander.
Yeah, making their way now towards Clubhouse Corner, or should I say towards Sunset Corner. Swiggers has got a lovely start. That blue car, that is John Henry Vaughan with Ramsey, Grobler, Nel and Besaidnout, and a Gous sitting there behind him, but it's all about the number 11 car that sits out there in P1. That's Waldo Swiggers. Right there behind him is Chris Long, and right behind Chris Long in P3, it's Mike Mageer.
Oh, Mike Mageer with a wonderful start. Slacked off a bit, they managed to come back. He looks up on the inside of Long, but Long keeps the door firmly shut behind him there. And a lot of hard work being done. Well, everything's happening there now. So it's going to be Clinton Besaidnout move up to 9th from 11th. Look, someone went off the circuit there. Was that Chris Long?
No. Chris Long still sits there in that 2nd place. We're aboard Stevie Mack now. Stevie Mack was right behind Gavin Fleming. And Stevie Mack in the 51 car got himself out of shape. Kotze and Niemand has now got their noses ahead of him as well. So Stevie Mack has got all the way down to P13.
Right, so there's Christopher Long, and right up there behind him now is Mike Mageer in the 69, the purple people eater cars, I would say, working his way down there now. Oh, keep an eye on Gous now. He sits in 8th place now. Sitting up there behind Peter Grobler now. Through Crocodiles they go. But, Adrian Nel, what is it like having your countrymen giving you such uphill, Frankie?
I'll tell you what, they need to work together because they've got a whole bunch of SA boys that's ahead of them now as they make their way into the right-hander. That is Cheetah, making their way towards the final quarter now. That's Ingwe as they turn it right through Ingwe. And his contact there. Nel was involved in that contact there. So was Host. They were absolutely 10-10s, 11-10s, these boys, as they stormed down into Crowthorne corner.
Keep an eye on Lyle Ramsey sitting in fifth place there behind John Henry Vaughan. Vaughan sees ahead of him there Mike McGear. Vaughan looks on the inside. Oh, and there's contact. There's contact that unsettles him totally. Vaughan gets in there now. And Lyle Ramsey's right up behind him now. But McGear manages to come back. McGear with a wonderful recovery. And Ramsey goes past Henry Vaughan and looks up on the inside of McGear, who runs a bit wide there now. And Lyle Ramsey is fighting back tooth and nail.
Yeah, John Henry Vaughan says, come on, I'll not let you guys get away from me. He can see the Mike's Place car ahead of him, or two cars ahead of him. That is Chris Long. Ramsey sits there ahead of him as well as we're on board. John Henry Vaughan, he looks at the back bumper there of Mike McGear. Into Clubhouse corner they go now. McGear has got John Henry Vaughan right on his back bumper, and just ahead of them we've got Ramsey as this whole field makes their way through the left-right S's, and they'll climb the hill towards Leeuwkop.
Right, so Frankie, I left my packet of commentators' curses at home this evening. I'm not saying much. But that man out front, Waldo Swiggers, has led from the beginning. And I said, you keep an eye on this man. He's going to grab it with both hands, and he's doing exactly that.
Look at Mike McGear now. He wants to try and drive around the outside of Lyle Ramsey. Sells him a dummy and dives onto the inside. The oldest trick in the book, and John Henry Vaughan is there as well, as they're keeping an eye there on Chris Long. Into that left-hander they go now, and then the right-hander that takes them into Crocodile. There's not much between P4, or should I say between P3, 4 and 5, and let's make it P6 as well, as they work their way now towards Cheetah.
Well, some fantastic driving there from John Henry Vaughan as he squirts there up behind Lyle Ramsey and Mike McGear. They're having a tenacious battle out there now, and just ahead of them, Christopher Long, trying to consolidate himself in second place and trying to get some breathing space. But he's not going to have much there because Mike McGear was in the front now, sits on the second row, up there behind Christopher Long. The man out front still, Waldo Swiggers. Clinton Besaidon has moved up to 6th. We always like to see Clinton do well. He's a seasoned campaigner. He knows Kyle Army. He knows what he can do. Can he do something better? Because he's got Peter Grobler and Melvin Gous helping him on.
Look at Lyle Ramsey up on the inside of McGear. Into Crowthorne corner they go now. Ramsey and McGear through Crowthorne into Yuxkay. Ahead of them is Christopher Long. From Yuxkay they make their way now towards Barbecue. That left hand, that is Barbecue. Then that short straight that takes them towards Sunset Corner, and Mike McGear sits there right behind Ramsey that sits in third, Long that sits in second, and turning now into the right hand in the distance is your race leader, Waldo Swiggers.
Well, McGear giving Lyle Ramsey a lot to think about there now as he sits up behind him now. John Henry Vaughan up behind him now. Clinton Besaidon notice getting on the gas. He wants to join the party. Peter Grobler, Melvin Gous sitting down in 7th and 8th. You'd want him to be a little bit higher than that. Adrian Nel has slipped down to 10th. He was one of the top contenders in the previous heat. Gavin Fleming in 9th. There is a good turn up for the books, Frankie.
Well, I'll tell you what, this young man has learned Kyle Army Grand Prix circuit very, very quickly, and he's in the top 10. He's just been overtaken there by Adrian Nel, who's just got lost in the system in the second heat.
Yeah, Gerard Niemann now. Fleming goes backwards slightly as Dewald Kortze overtakes him now, but we keep our eye back on the front there. Waldo Swiggers, Christopher Long, he saw go past him with Lyle Ramsey, Mike McGear, John Henry Vaughan looking up on the inside of McGear down into Crocodiles, and he makes it stick. He goes across him and he forces a shutout there and then goes centre of the track to go defensive. A very good manoeuvre from the young lad.
Yeah, as they now work their way out of Cheetah, we are board now with Mike McGear. Ahead of McGear, we see John Henry Vaughan. Ahead of Vaughan, we see Lyle Ramsey, and still Chris Long sits in second place, and Swiggers, you just saw him turn into Ingwe, the final corner. That is race leader Waldo Swiggers as they run across the line with just under 7 minutes to go.
Well, you all see them as they come out of Ingwe and get on the gas. The front wheel spinning as the smoke comes off there now. Not too much diff lock on those cars now as they work their way down into the right-hander, left-hander. And Ramsey starting to close down on Christopher Long. Long goes defensive, cuts across the bow. But look at it. Oh, my word. Ramsey just barges his way through. and gets it a little bit long in the tooth on the brakes there now. And it's got Chris Long, excuse the pun. But I tell you what, Long wants to come back. He slides back up on the inside and he makes it stick. And keep an eye on Henry Vaughan. He's right there with Lyle Ramsey.
Yeah, John Henry Vaughan now, but have a look at this. The two boys, one from up north and one from Cape Town. Make it two from Cape Town. They three abreast. They are three abreast as they head into sunset, and something had to give. And it's Ramsey that gets sent packing as they make their way through Sunset Corner.
Oh, that was a little bit of a political move, but I'm not saying too much. I'm not a COC, I'm merely a commentator, and still Walderswig leading out. John Henry Vaughan is now in second place with Mike McGee behind him. Chris Long in fourth, Melvin Gous in 5. Clinton Besaidnout, well, he's moved up to 5th. Gous is the one that's losing out here. Peter Grobler in 7th.
Yeah, we sit there on board of Grobler. Oh, and Gous just got spat to the outside there in the JP Hydraulics car. He sits in there now behind Peter Gous, and Lyle Ramsey sits there behind Gous. He's making a comeback as well. He's dropped down now to P8 of the incident there in Sunset Corner. He's just ahead of Adra now that sits in the 9th place as we ride aboard with Mike McGee as they make their way into the left-hander and the right-hander to Crocodile.
Well, it's 5 minutes and 15 seconds left now. It's still Walderswig who's just hanging on up in the front there now. John Henry Vaughan in second, McGee giving him a little something to think about. A little way back there is Christopher Long. And what did I say? Clinton Besaidnout moving up to P5 now. Besaidnout with a sterling effort here now from way down the back has managed to find his way. Also at the loss of some of the other drivers, but that's it. You go to the bitter end. And Clinton Besaidnout is showing he knows his way around Kyalami.
Using Kyalami Grand Prix circuit and a touch more there is Clinton Besaidnout as they race across the start-finish line into that right-handed kink that takes him down into the left-handed turn 1. That is the famous Crowthorne corner. Through Crowthorne corner, Mike McGee. I told you at the beginning of heat number 3, I got a feeling Mike McGee was going to do well in this one. I don't want to give him the commentator's curse, but for now he sits in that 3rd position just behind John Henry Vaughan.
Yeah, the young John Henry Vaughan sits up there ahead of him, and Mike McGee trying everything to get in there. Now, Christopher Long trying to claw his way back there with Clinton Besaidnout in tow. And I tell you what, these 2-litre 20 valves are working overtime now. They're using every extremity of the circuit now as they work their way through. They're up over the shark teeth now. It does unsettle the steering slightly. You feel a lot of feedback there, and you're going to have to make sure you hold on tight. Now we're with Melvin Gous. Gous there ahead of Lyle Ramsey. Ramsey, who went a little bit farming now, is going to work his way back. He at one stage was leading the pack. And I tell you what, it's an insurmountable task to come there now with only 3 minutes and 45 seconds left.
I'll tell you what, the guys are driving as hard as they can now. We are still aboard with the Lyle Ramsey outfit as he chases Melvin Gous up the hill towards Leeuwkop. Ahead of the two of them, we see Christopher Long turning into the double left-hander past the signboard, racing as hard as they can down the mine shaft. It is Peter Grobler that sits on the back bumper of the man in P5. Clinton Besaidnout through the left right-hander into Crocodile.
Now look at the lines that Clinton Besaidnout's taking. You can see he knows what he's doing now. Grobler looks up on the inside. Oh, he must be absolutely standing on the brake pedal there now. Oh, and they're side by side. But Clinton Besaidnout managed to edge him out. Well, there's a little bit of dents and scratches there on the rear of that Polo, but nonetheless, it'll give the mechanics something to do on the rest of the week.
Just argy-bargy, bump and bash your way through. This is what the Polo Cup racing is all about. Besaidnout sits there just ahead of the man as they work their way now across the line through the kink, that right-handed kink that takes them into turn 1, Crowthorne corner, and McGee is closing the gap there, under braking on second place man John Henry Vaughan.
Well, Walderswig is now about 3.5 seconds ahead of John Henry Vaughan. I tell you what, he's taken this with 2 hands and the shopping bags that come with it, and leads out this race now with 2 minutes and 20 seconds plus a lap to go. John Henry Vaughan in second, fighting off Mike McGee. A little way back is Chris Long and Clinton Besaidnout and Peter Grobler. The 3 of them embroiled in a right royal battle. Then Melvin Gous and Lyle Ramsey and Adrian Nell, the 3 of them would love to be a little bit higher up.
Yeah, we'll watch Adrian Nell. He's in that blue car. He turns into that number 3 car. That is Nell. Just behind him is Div1 as they make their way through Sunset Corner and into the left hand, and that is Clubhouse. That is Kotze. We're on board with now the SRA car. That is the man that sits out in P10, Div1 Kotze. Ahead of him is a man from Namibia, Adranel. And ahead of him, the man from SA, Lyle Ramsey.
Oh, Lyle Ramsey climbing the shark's teeth there. Nearly took the sump off there as he went through. But yeah, and they get onto Leeuwkop now, working their way around. Now we sit with McGear in the 69 car there. McGear right up behind John Henry Vaughan. He's about half a second behind him. Then we look there now at Clinton Besaiden, at Peter Grobler, embroiled in a battle there now. And I tell you what, Christopher Long has got Clinton Besaiden, and Besaiden looks up on the inside. He uses his knowledge of the circuit and forces Long out. A bit of a shutout there on Long. So he's doing pretty well now. Sitting here with Peter Grobler now, trying to get around Christopher Long. Guys, Long overworked his tires as he lost grip. And I tell you something that it looks that way. Oh, and look at that. I don't know where Melvin Gous says, you guys want to have a little bit of argy-bargy, I'll just take up the easy pickings.
Yeah, dives up on the inside of Peter Grobler. That now drops in there behind Melvin Gous. Ahead of them is Chris Long in P5. P4 is Clinton Besaiden out as they squirted down into the right-hander, racing as hard as they can into turn 1, Crowthorne corner. Grobler is all over the back of Melvin Gous, and just ahead of them is the Mike's Place Polo of Chris Long as they turn it left into Crowthorne corner.
Peter Grobler trying to go wide around Melvin Gous. Look at the front wheel spinning as they leave that corner there now. And they're behind Clinton Besaiden. It is a little way up there. Clinton using his knowledge of the circuit to his advantage, showing them the way around. He's only 3.8 seconds or 3.9 seconds behind the leader. So the leader doing pretty well. And we're going to, when we cross the line, we'll have one more lap to go.
But McGear is only 0.8 of a second behind second place man John Henry Vaughan. These guys that we're looking at now are having one heck of a fight with each other. And there in the distance you see turning into Clubhouse is John Henry Vaughan and Mike McGear, and McGear's now got away from Besaiden, Grobler, Long and Nell as they are fighting with each other, and they have now released third place man Mike McGear, who is about 4 seconds ahead of Clinton Besaiden.
Well, I tell you what, Peter Grobler saw Christopher Long and Adranel having a bit of a scrap and grabbed it with both hands and got 2 places up there now. So he's doing pretty well. And ahead there, Peter Grobler. So Peter Grobler ahead of Adranel and Christopher Long, and they're having a merry scrap there on top of Leeuwkop now as they work their way down the mine shaft.
Right, as they head there down that mine shaft now, we're on board with Chris Long. He sees Nell and Grobler in P5 and 6 ahead of him. He wants to try and make a way through. The leader will be coming around to start his final lap shortly, and that will be Waldo Swiggers, and he's 3.5 seconds ahead of John Henry Vaughan. That's only 0.7 of a second ahead of Mike McGear.
Well, Mike McGear with a fantastic fight back there. John Henry Vaughan sitting in second place now as the leaders cross the line. And on their final lap now, before they get the flag, Waldo Swiggers still 3.5 seconds ahead of John Henry Vaughan. Then half a second back, Mike McGear. Another 4 seconds back is Clinton Besaiden, which is quite a bit of distance. And then behind them, Peter Grobler, Adranel, Christopher Long, Div1 Kotze, and Lyle Ramsey with Warren Sheehan making up the top 10.
Right, and just out that top 10 is Niman Gous, Mac, and Fleming. It sits out there in P14, and Yassine Manuel rounds off the top 15, just ahead there of Jay de Villiers. But there is just under 2/3 of a lap to go as Mike McGear sits on the back of John Henry Vaughan. This is the fight for second and third that I was talking about earlier on. And Vaughan cannot worry too much about Swiggers. He has to protect that second position from McGear as Swiggers disappears into the left-hander clubhouse, with Vaughan fighting for that second position.
Well, keep an eye there on Mike McGear. He's got other ideas now. He's going to be pressing Vaughan towards the bitter end. A little way back is Clinton Besaiden out fighting there with Peter Grobler and Adranel up behind him. Oh, sideways goes John Henry Vaughan as he's trying to stave off the attentions of Mike McGear. But McGear has also problems of himself as he forces himself a little bit wide then up onto the tabletop, commonly known as Leeuwkop. Make that sharp 180 to the left, down the mine shaft. They work their way down towards Crocodiles. In view at the moment, your leader, Waldo Swiggers.
Yeah, Waldo Swiggers, nothing that they're going to do about him. He's 3.9 seconds ahead of John Henry Vaughan. Make that 4 seconds ahead of John Henry Vaughan as Robert is fighting with Besaiden out ahead of him, and Nell not too far behind him, followed there by Christopher Long as they make their way around the circuit towards Crocodile and Cheetah. But the checkered flag will be coming out shortly as Div1 Kotze has a lunge there at Christopher Long The checkered flag will be out. The leader surely must be virtually now by the checkered flag. Yes, here he comes. P1 for Swickers across the line. Second goes to John Henry Vaughan. Third across the line will go to Mike McGeer. And that's your top three across the line. And as the rest of the guys just filter across the line at the checkered flag.
Well, fourth goes to Clinton Besaidon at fifth, Peter Grobler, followed there by Adrian Nell, then Christopher Long, Dewald Kotze, Lyle Ramsey, Gerard Niemand, and Melvin Goos, Stuart Mack, and we'll wait for the rest of the field to come across the line. They're now followed by Gavin Fleming. And that's pretty much it, folks. It's been a wonderful, exciting race. A lot of paint swapping. A lot for the panel beaters to do on Monday morning.
Yeah, well, only 14, should I say 15 of the 16 finished. But well done to Swickers, Vaughan and McGeer, the top three in race number 2. And exactly what I said earlier on. Watch out for Mike McGeer. He did it. He brought it home in third. But well done to the winner, Waldo Swickers.
Well, folks, that pretty much wraps it up for today. A big thanks to JP Hydraulics, the main sponsor of the Polo Cup Series for SRA Sim Race Africa. And then also on behalf of the commentary side of thing, a big thanks to John Vaughan for his assistance with the commentary side from Maps Racing. Then also Jana van der Westhuizen from Quick Fix. And then also Yuri Swart from Alpine Auto. A big thanks to our West Romans Commentators Association guys, Frankie Innes and Francois Butler, two of the best commentators in South Africa, my co-commentating colleagues from Kalani International as well as World Rallycross. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be with you guys. We will be back next week with round number 2 with the SRA Polo Cup Series. From my side, Gary Fleming on behalf of Frankie and Francois, thanks for joining us, folks. Good night to you, one and all.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,